I just love when you can see people come together, when the perspectives are actually what allow us to see what's important. I've always said that pain and perspective always point us towards what's important if we're paying attention. Welcome back to Flipping the Lid. You know what we do here by now. I love to have the real, raw conversations with some of the most influential, impactful people on this planet, or just some of the best humans on this planet. I just had Chad on my live show on Friday. He is a partnership with Chad and Rob of Swyvvl, and they are a home search portal built to make real estate more transparent. We're going to talk about that deeper in, but what's really cool is Chad showed up in what I believed might have been a more transactional type discussion on my live, and in the first question or two, he went deep. He just made it real, raw, and had vulnerability, and was able to express a lot of clarity around who he is, the reasons why he does what he does today, but also with humility and grounding. And when we jumped on today, I felt like I was going to have to give Rob a little bit of a preview as to who I am and how I interview. And we didn't even skip a beat because Rob, well, I think he's the tech guy between the two of them. And he was able to sit and listen to the interview before. But in the conversations that we just had, Rob and I are now best friends. I'm going to have a lot of Nike products as a result of it. But these guys just truly, you can see the friendship, the camaraderie, the connection, and the desire to create impact through the work that they do. So Rob and Chad of Swyvvl, welcome to the show, you guys. I'm happy to have you here today.
Thank you for having us, my friend.
Glad to be here, brother.
Well, Chad, you know this question because I asked you individually the other day, but I'm going to actually ask this question to both of you as an intro, and then we'll probably trade off and see where it goes from there. But the only question that I ask every guest on this show, outside of whatever I've said about you or however I've introduced you, who are you in your own words? And I'd ask each of you to answer that individually.
Well, I'll let Rob go first since I already took a shot at it, and then I will repeat on my side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nothing like giving the warm up and the momentum that you've already got, Chad, to make it easier on Rob. You just put him in the hot seat right out the gate. I love this. All right.
Are you kidding me?
Let's go.
That's kind of my job. He throws fires at me and I put him out. I mean, honestly, as a CTO. But yeah, you know, I was born Robert and then grew up going by Bobby, and now my friends call me Rob. And I am a pastorpreneur. So I pastor a small church in the Olympia, Washington area. But since it is such a small church, I have to subsidize that income. And so I'm also an entrepreneur. So Swyvvl is one of the few business ventures that I have, and I run another couple local businesses. And so I'm a dad, and you know about that. We have 5 kids total, 3 biological kids. And then along the way, we adopted 2 kids. So in my house right now, I have 4 adult kids and 1 just going into middle school. So I've got 2 22-year-old daughters. I've got a 21-year-old son, a 20-year-old son, and then my 11-year-old son. And I just love it. I spent 12 years as a youth pastor before I became a lead pastor. And so, man, I love working with the next generation. I love pouring into people, coaching people, and just helping people make their lives better. And even in my businesses, you expect that from the church, but in my businesses, I love to look at, you know, how do I make my client's life better? It's not just selling a product or a service to someone. It's really understanding who they are, what their needs are, and then developing the best game plan to execute to get us there together. And so honestly, that's how Chad and I came to know each other. Our original relationship was, you know, he was a client. And he came to me and he says, I've got this idea for a website. Can you build it? I said, yes, I can build it. So we did. We did exactly that. We built the website, which was not called Swyvvl at the time. It was under another name. And then I believed in his idea so much, I made the crazy business decision to stop getting paid to produce it, bought into the company as a co-founder, and now I'm spending money to have this vision realized. And along the way, gained a great friend. And so we've gone from being business associates to business partners to becoming really good friends.
I love that. I have to ask, you know, you talked about Robert, Bobby, and Rob.
Yeah.
You talked about what other people call you. What do you prefer to be called?
For my mom and those that knew me in my early childhood, like Bobby feels natural. But I don't let anybody else call me Bobby, like unless they grew up with me. So like my best friend since 2nd grade, Alan, he lives in Florida. He still calls me Bobby. But pretty much everybody that met me after that, I like Rob. You know, there was a period where I wanted to be like I think it was in junior high where I wanted to go by my full name, Robert Lee Brower II. And that became my signature. And, so interesting facts. And my dad went by Bob. He's also Robert Lee Brower. So I'm Robert Lee Brower II. My son Trey is actually Robert Lee Brower III. And we call him Trey for 3. And so, pass that name on. And so, yeah.
Rob, I will not call you Bobby because I've only known you for a couple of minutes, but I actually really appreciate even the nuance and the distinguishing elements of like who can call you what. But it is really interesting, and I'm so happy that I love the term pastorpreneur. I so appreciate all the elements of how you introduced yourself and the depth with which you went into it. And it's also really cool because I can tell you are not the traditional CTO or just tech guy. And it must be some of your pastoral work or all the dynamics of who you are. But man, you can talk. And I mean that in a positive way. You've got access to language. You have no problem just laying it all out there. And this is going to be fun as a result of it. So we will come back full circle into some other questions. But Chad, man, I got to have you answer the same question. Who are you in your words?
Well, first of all, how good am I that I have this guy paying me in order to be a part of all of this? Now that is truly an accomplishment.
It is. It is.
It is.
I just completely turned you.
I mean, when you can go from somebody that you're paying to perform a product to getting them to pay you to be a part of it, that's pretty powerful.
Yes.
But I think if we check with bookkeeping right now, both of our paychecks have the same amount of zeros.
Yeah, they're
all zeros.
I was going to say, does it just start with one?
Yeah. Let me rephrase this. I got you to pay Swyvvl.
Yes.
But not me with it all said and done. So, I mean, like really, truly with me, like I said, from before, I really feel like I'm in this transition period of who I am. I really feel like I'm transitioning from this person who was and still is on a lot of different levels, but I always used to be just focused on getting from A to Z as fast and hard as I could get there. When I was in junior high, I was looking forward to high school. When I was in high school, I was looking forward to college. When I was in college, I was looking forward to going into law enforcement. And so I was always looking at that end goal, and I never enjoyed the journey in between all of it. And as I approach 50, I know I look like a young 30, but as I screw you, fuck you. So anyways, on the flip side of it, as I approach 50 in this, in 2026, this upcoming year, I really feel like there's been this change in me, or I'm in this process of changing, of really trying to enjoy the journey of it. And that journey of, the being the husband, that journey of enjoying being the business owner, that journey of helping and seeing others improve in their life, rather than just, hey, how do I get to A to Z in the fastest, most successful way possible? So I feel like a little discombobulated now in my life. But on the flip side, I also feel like it, like we'll drive down the road wherever we're going, right? And I'm focused on getting to wherever I'm going. But my wife, she'll notice all the trees, and she'll notice the bushes, and she'll notice the road. And she enjoys like that entire journey. And I will look at things that she points out, and I will have driven this road like really like 100 fucking times. And I will have noticed none of that, like at all. I won't even have noticed any of the things she's pointing out to me. And she's kind of really been teaching me on my side that I just got to take a breath. Like everyone, I think I said it before, we as, these alpha driven people, we are so focused on the goal that we don't really see all the debris we leave in that background as we're going through the process, whether it's financial debris, whether it's emotional, whether what we're doing to others, to ourselves, the whole deal. And I think as I'm walking on this journey, I want to enjoy it more. I don't, I don't have 20, 30 years to waste anymore. I'm not in my 20s anymore. So my focus of how I look at things is changing, and I like how it's changing, but it's also like a little discombobulating because it's like I'm not truly who I used to be. I'm now kind of transitioning into somebody different, and it's definitely been a journey for me over these last couple of years.
So, Chad, I know we haven't known each other that long, but do I have permission to reflect something back to you that I just like felt when you were saying that?
Of course.
I actually think that you are probably becoming more authentically who you've always been behind the armor and the performance.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And so it may not be how you identify with who you used to be, but I would suggest that performer was not ever really you. And I didn't even know you then.
Yeah. No, I would agree with you as I look back on it, and that kind of raw honesty of just, because I'm okay with admitting now that I make mistakes, that I'm not perfect, and I don't need to be perfect in order to be useful to people, even to be useful to myself, my family, etc. Always felt like I needed to be, or else I was dragging them down. So I do. And I feel much better about it, but boy, it's a transition.
You've been carrying around layers of armor and protection for decades, and shedding it goes in layers, and it doesn't just happen because you decide to overnight.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate even the nuance of how you talk about it real time in this moment. I do have to ask, as I listen to the contrast between you and your wife and that analogy of driving down the road, whether it's driving on the road or in general in life, I think is probably more what I would ask. Like, what is it that you do notice?
What I used to notice or what I do notice now?
Either way, I guess, we all tune into different things. And I think that we pick up and see different things. And so what I know is you could not have gotten this far in life or had some of the success, performance or not, without being able to notice things. So what is it that you tune into? What is it that you notice? And maybe you can answer it as a two-part question, historically and today.
Yeah. Before, I noticed what needed to be noticed to get me to the end result, to get me to where my mind was of what success was. So if that success was building a real estate business, I would be hyper focused on anything that would help me achieve that goal. Okay. Even to the fact that if I was on a phone call with an asset manager at a bank during the Great Recession and hearing how they're talking about something that's in what's going on in their life. And I would automatically, and this is where you talk about, that kind of authentic nature or not authentic nature. I learned, especially when I had been working undercover, was to immediately relate to somebody on something that they're into, whether I was into it or not. So I would very much focus on and say, hey, I'm really into that. I may not be into that in any way, shape, manner, or form, but I would do that in my business in order to build business relationships to get myself in. So I would do anything or learn anything or morph into anything in order to be able to get to that, what I wanted to be my end goal of building a real estate agency, doing 100 deals in a year, whatever the deal was with all of it. Now my focus is more on, instead of trying to use something that I observe about somebody to my advantage. Okay. I don't know if that sounds like a jackass or an asshole move. It really wasn't meant in a horrible, bad way, but it was a way of succeeding and coping. Now I look at people much more in the way that when they're sharing things or talking to me about things, I'm more in depth of wanting to hear and listen and find out about them than wanting to just find out about it just to use it to my advantage to be able to succeed in whatever my goal is at that moment.
Yeah. By the way, I don't think talking about it in a retrospective way is in any way negative or makes you sound bad. I think it's a reality of how you used to operate and your ownership of it today. Yeah. Right. And so again, I think we can exist in shame and blame, but when that happens, growth and opportunity go out the window. And that'd be like saying that, it sounds really bad that I used to have anger and reactions in a way that would cause my wife to feel unsafe or unemotionally safe. And I never hit her. I never verbally abused her, but I have big energy. I'm not proud of the fact that I did that, but I never did that on purpose. And I never did it with the belief that I was creating damage. I just had to step into it with clarity once I did. Right. Yeah. And so I just say that to you because look, you are still in this transition, but that'll be one of the biggest pieces that I'll give you as just a thought and a gift is the faster you can remove the shame and blame for the things that you did not see or understand before, the faster you step into the future and the current and existing you.
Yeah. Yeah. And to be honest, I am enjoying it. God, I mean, I would have to tell everybody, I always hear people that are like, hey, listen, once I make it, then I'll start enjoying it. Once I get to this point, I'll enjoy the fruits of my labor. I'll take care of myself health wise, physical wise, mental wise, financially, whatever the deal is. And I think that if you have that viewpoint, you never actually get there.
So how did you lie and manipulate to convince Rob to join you? And I'm totally kidding.
Hey, he's not supposed to know this.
Totally.
You know what's actually crazy is it was quite the opposite. Rather than him trying to convince me of anything, we got to a point naturally in our relationship where we had really kind of this come to Jesus moment where I felt trusted enough and safe enough to say to him, hey, listen, bro, I 100% believe in your product. I 100% believe in the vision. However, the branding sucks. And so for us to then put everything on the table and just create a safe space for our entire team, because that's what it meant. We already had developers and marketers working on this stuff. And we sat down and we said, okay, everything's on the table. Let's even the name, so we completely rebranded, and then it launched as Swyvvl, and it night and day. One of these days we joke that we're going to have in our Swyvvl headquarters a museum that holds what the original website looked like. And we got some hilarious stories from that time in our life, man. It was just part of getting something up off the ground that's new and never been done before.
Well, I think quite a testament to the work that you've been doing, Chad, to even have Rob use the words that he felt safe enough and that you had to create the safe space. And so kudos to you. Rob, I'll bring it back to you. Obviously I've gotten to understand a little bit more of Chad's background and history, and we may go through some of it again today. We may not, but in the nature of this dialogue and discussion, for you to be able to so clearly articulate, I felt safe enough and we had to facilitate that safe space for our teams, would also imply and suggest that you have enough contrast and understanding of not feeling safe enough and not being able to either be in or facilitate those types of spaces. You talked a little bit about some of your homeboys that can still call you by your other name and some of the history that maybe shaped components of you. But could you give us a little bit of a feel for maybe some of the backdrop that got you to where you are today and has shaped how you view business relationships and put you in the position to feel safe enough with Chad?
Absolutely. Honestly, my story and on how I evolved that way as a person goes all the way back to who my folks are. So my dad was a big black man from North Carolina. He was 6'2.5", 300 pounds of solid muscle, did all the sports, became a cop in the Air Force, security police officer. And I remember, just a quick side story, I was in elementary school and my dad came and picked me up because I missed the activity bus. And he got a call that the bank was being robbed on base. And so he said, son, I got to go. Stay in the car. So he locks me. I'm in the back. And we get to First Interstate Bank on McCord Air Force Base here, and they've already got their guns drawn. And this guy had surrendered his weapon, and he had thrown the bag of money out, and he was laying on his knees with his fingers interlaced behind his head. And they're like, Bob, we're glad you showed up. Can you go hook him up? So my dad puts his pistol away, grabs his cuffs, and as soon as one cuff clicked on that guy's wrist, I think the reality hit him that, oh crap, I'm going to prison. So he tried to turn and swing on my dad, and my dad hit him square in the face, just one punch. And I saw this red mist just, and I thought, oh my gosh, my dad just killed that guy. And he's just hanging limp from his wrist that's cuffed. And I was like, wow. So like nobody messed with my dad.
Dad knocked him out in one hit. And that's sweet.
No, my dad was very strong. Whenever I got in trouble and my mom would give me whatever punishment she was going to give me and then say, now wait for your dad to get home. That was like the worst. I'm like, no, anything but that, And so I grew up with that. And my mom is Korean. So my dad was in the Air Force, met her in Korea. I was born in Spain. And
that's why you're so beautiful. The combo of both. I see it now. I see why you are so beautiful. It makes sense. Chad, you're not. You're a white boy like me, but it's okay. Thank you.
What do you mean? Like French and Yugoslavian is not beautiful mixed?
European? You mean European mutt is not attractive and beautiful and radiant? No,
German in there, and you get as white as can be.
Because my wife comes from European mutt, and so our kids are all beautiful. So, but I grew up in Korea until I finished second grade. And this is actually something that defined who I am very well. One day, the Korean kids were kind of picking on me, and I identified as Korean because my dad, being in the Air Force, would leave us for like 6 months at a time to go on these little short tours. And I'm raised by my mom and my grandma and my aunts and uncles, and they're all Korean. And, so I speak Korean at home. I'm a Korean kid. I eat Korean food. Like I live in Korea. I am Korean in my mind. And they start calling me this word and they're like, hugging. And I'm like, I don't even know what that means. So I get home and I'm like trying to fight back tears. And my mom's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, these kids keep calling me hugging and I don't even know what that means. And essentially it literally translates to person of dirt, which is a derogatory term for a person of color. And I was like, what the heck? I'm not Korean enough to be accepted by the Korean students. man, I can't wait for us to move to America and all that'll change. So I got to America, saw more people with diverse skin color. And then I realized a harsh reality was I wasn't black enough to be fully accepted by the black kids. So I'm like, then what the heck? And so, I started meeting kids that were on the fringe and they weren't the coolest kids in school or the best jocks or whatever. My best friend to this day, I met him in the summer 2nd grade, and he was a dorky, short, nerdy kid, and we just bonded. And so academically, I'm 50-50, right brain, left brain. I actually didn't go to school to become a pastor. I went to school as a double major in computer science and theater arts. So I've done professional acting and things like that, which is why, as you said, that's where I learned my eloquence. I'm very comfortable in front of a camera, and it really helps when I'm, public speaking, whether it's preaching a message or whether I'm speaking at a youth event or something like that. But that really defined me, this being lost, this not knowing what my identity was. I'm not black. I'm not white. And what didn't help is back then when you filled out a form, there was this box called other. And it used to drive me insane. I couldn't mark African American. I couldn't mark Asian American. I had to mark other. And then sometimes they didn't even give you a line to write what that other is. It just meant if you're not one of these main 4, we don't care. And so that drove me crazy. And so I determined, you know what? I am going to not allow myself to be defined by my skin color. And so as I started applying to colleges and stuff, a lot of friends were like, oh, dude, this college is offering this scholarship for minorities. And I said, I'm not going to apply for any minority scholarships. If I go to school, I'm going to be just judged by my merit of my academics and nothing else. And so for that reason, I'm one of my few friends of color who absolutely, I am so against DEI and affirmative action. And I have not had a problem as a person of color in this country getting ahead. I don't know how other people define success, but I think I'm successful, and I'm happy with where my life has ended up. And, I didn't need to get a government handout to get there. And so that's kind of who I am in a nutshell. I mean, it's really defined how I run my businesses, and in all of my relationships, I've always been accepting. Like, I don't care what your background is, man. I don't care what you used to do in your past. That's not who you are today. It doesn't define you. And so it's still a journey. And there are times where, you come across like explicit racism, and it hurts. And nobody wants to be excluded based on something that you can't change. Like, I didn't choose the color of my skin. So, I don't like being left out, but I'm also not going to just quit and take my bat and go home, so.
Right. Well, one of the things that I say, and I don't know that I've shared much about my story with either of you, and today's not about me, so I won't go there. But when I was 7, I was run over by a truck and my left arm was torn from my body. It was reattached, 24 surgeries, a bunch of stuff that's involved in it. And one of the things that I say to people is, like, I realize how unique my story is, but for lots of areas that I'm sure you can imagine, I was teased, criticized, overlooked, like people compressing me, not believing me in so many different ways. And I will never know what it's like to be a person of color. I will never know what it's like to be transgender. I will never know what it's like to be a woman. I will never know what it's like to be anybody else. But what I do know is what it's like to be the only one in every room I walk into.
Yeah.
And what I do know is sometimes I don't fit within a checkbox that fits nice and pretty. And yet I am all of those things and more. And so it is interesting because, so I will share this with you just because I think it is relevant. And this isn't like I've got one black friend comment. That's not at all what I'm saying. You got
thank you for now. So
hey, we have two black. No, but thank you for appreciating the where I was going with that. But when I was in college, I was in an organization that was founded as a result of the Rodney King riots, and it was around multiculturalism, diversity. I'm forgetting the 3 or 4 other pillars, but activism, community service, basically. And why I suggest that is as one of the white guys in the group, I truly learned a whole lot about things that I never quite understood, coming from a predominantly white area, having the own biases that I have. But where I am going with that is that despite many relationships, you're the first person that I've ever heard describe not being able to check one of the primary boxes and having to lean into other. And what do I mean by that? It's not that there aren't other mixed race individuals, but it's interesting because of all the external pressure that you got, even though you were both, you felt the need to check other. And yet you could have easily checked African American because you are half. You could have easily checked Asian American because you are half. You are both. And so my question for you is what were the pressures that made you feel you could not check either? Because you said you weren't good enough to fit into either crowd.
Yeah.
But yet you were both. What was it that made you feel that other was the only appropriate box?
Well, the forms have changed over the years, but back then, because unlike Chad, I have hit 50. I hit 50 this year. So that many years ago, the forms used to say check 1.
You're right. You are correct.
And so I go, okay, well, if I can only check 1, which one am I? So if I check African American, I go, well, but my mom's Korean and I grew up culturally Korean for the first couple years of my life. I still speak Korean. My grandma lives with us and is helping raise me. And I don't want to dishonor that half of my family. But if I check, only Asian American, then my dad's whole side of the family, I don't want to dishonor that. So that's why I felt like, man, I'm being forced to check other because I don't fit into any one of these other boxes neatly. And I found that that's kind of been the thing going through life. And I realized that, you know what? Who wants to fit into a nice, tight little box that somebody else?
That's what I was going to ask you. Totally.
And so over the years, I found strength in knowing that the fact that I don't fit into any boxes, it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing that I am my own unique person. And I think that society does a really good job of wanting to label everything. Yeah. And if they don't understand something, they're afraid of it. So they come up with another label, whether that label is good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, why do we got to label everything? So
I agree. Now, here's the thing. I'm not against labels, but here's why. Labels are the person reading them, not the person behind it. Mm-hmm. And it says a whole lot more about the person who creates and places the label than the person who's on the inside of the jar that just got a sticker slapped on it.
Yeah.
But, labels for me translate to awareness and understanding if we can view it beyond whatever the word is, right?
Yeah.
And yet that's also what I heard in what you said is that so much of these experiences shaped you to have awareness and understanding and meeting people where they are through so many of the ventures of what you do, because here's the truth. Regardless of race, ethnicity, gender, none of us really fit cleanly inside any box. And we always have to meet people where they are.
Yeah.
And so I love that has been something that has driven you and shaped you. And as well, even though it lacked areas for you in how you could attach to an identity, it actually further ingrained and deepened the identity that has become all of who you are today. So I love that you went there and you were willing to even share that component of the story. I would like to ask, how long have you guys been together as partners doing this?
Well, I've known Rob as far as on the business side of things, because between his marketing agency he had, and then of course my real estate brokerage, are probably about 8 years or so, 7-8 years on that side of things. And then of course with Swyvvl, we started it we started talking about it about 4 years ago, started building it about 3 years ago. On that end. And then of course released the beta version of it about a little over a year ago, on that side, because when Rob talks about it, I had my idea, I had my plan, I knew what I wanted to do with it. But of course the execution of it is, there is no roadmap with it. Now, in your head what it is, emotionally what it will feel like when you get there. But you also know when you're not there with it, when you're like, this is just not it. So we got to that point where, what we had was not it. It was not the vehicle that I was hoping for, as far as to be able to communicate and to be able to really travel with this vehicle to change, the industry that we wanted to change in real estate. So, and then, like I said, our relationship has really, over the last 3 years, during this process, has really changed from that of just a professional one, with a little bit of personal involved, to where I would say that it's probably driven more on the personal end of things, with the professional getting secondary, right? I mean, there are times where, and I see it in his face, where I have to be like, no, this is where we're going down, and this is the road we're going down. And I have to be careful to respect him enough to hear his opinion. And I want him to know that even if I don't go with it, that he's heard. And I've had this conversation with other people involved with it. And I'm like, hey, he deserves and has earned the right to be heard. Now, I may not always go with it. And then that's where the professional aspect has to jump in with all of it. But on the flip side, I always know that, listen, if he's broken down in the middle of the road, I'll go help. Right. And I know even if it's like, so we're in the Seattle area, Spokane's like, 6 hours away.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would go drive to Spokane to help him out type thing. And I know he would do the same for me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's kind of where our relationship has really switched, where I would say I would say that it's driven by by our friendship and our relationship, the personal end of things, rather than being driven by the professional side of things. And I'll say this too, and this is just a little bit of an example of it. I've watched Rob over the years navigate between these different worlds that he talks about. And it's kind of interesting on my end, because, I'm a very Eastern European white guy. We talked about it there for, I'm like French and European and Yugoslav. I mean, Yugoslavia's not even around anymore, right? So, I'm all these things, but I've watched Rob as we've walked through these different communities, and I've watched him, how he relates to the Asian community when we're involved with the Asian community. And I've watched how he acts and reacts when he's with the Black community. Like, for example, we've been involved with this VC kind of type called Venture Black that's in the area. And it's really to help, startups that are minority owned, Black owned, et cetera. We'll go to, the functions, and guess what? Guess who's the minority there? It's me. I'm the one white guy amongst,
Okay. There were two white guys.
Two white guys.
There were two white guys there.
Amongst, the hundreds of Black people that are sitting there, and how Rob navigates that world, but also how Rob brings me into that world with all of it. Because, there's always on my end, I'm like, okay, am I crossing lines? Am I not crossing lines? Am I saying the right things? Am I not doing the right things? All of these things that occur with all of it, so it's been interesting, like I said, over the years, watching Rob, who lives in these different worlds, and the worlds are very different, right? I mean, we can say all we want about, hey, let's all get along, let's all become this melting pot, etc. But there are these significant cultural differences between Asian, Black, Hispanic, white, etc. And when you're jumping from each one of those worlds,
if you don't understand the cultural nuances of them and how to show up and how to interact and all of it, you're lost.
Different expectations, different responsibilities, different ways of handling things. So like I said, it's been very interesting for me to watch it over the years. And also with me being brought into those worlds in a much more significant manner than I normally would be, has also been interesting too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would imagine.
Chad, I got to tell the story. So speaking of Venture Black, it was 99%, are Black. And then there's Chad and one other guy who we've gotten to know well, as well. Yeah, I think they bonded over being the only two white guys.
He found the other token white guy.
Exactly.
They were the butt of the joke in this
Here's
case.
the thing. At the end of this one-day symposium where we got to go, and a lot of other business, there was also a pitch competition. And so at the end of it, they said, hey, let's all gather together and take a photo. So their logo is basically the Black fist. And so at the end, after they take all the photos, they're like, all right, let's do one with everybody fists up. And Chad's standing right behind me. And I'm like, it's okay, Chad, you can do it. And he's like, so he just put his hand on my shoulder. He felt so uncomfortable. He's making a fist. He's like, am I allowed to? So we gave him an honorary Black card. So Chad, he can put up the unity.
I think that's great. I think that's great on so many levels. And what I love about this though is I shared with you guys the group I was a part of in college, right?
Yeah.
What's funny is it was founded, and the name of it was Rangi ya Giza, which is Swahili for a darker shade. Nice. I am not a darker shade, right? And yet, like I told you, one of the symbols that was also on a lot of our sweatshirts and swag was the fist.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm the white guy, the token white guy in the group, also trying to represent, and not to become Black, but to frankly be comfortable in any environment that I could walk into as who I am, and know that I can relate, connect, and communicate with anybody. And so one of the things that is a nuance to what you said, Chad, and I'll challenge this just a little bit, because I think your perspective of talking about these different worlds that Rob has access to, my guess is that Rob is like that in every environment he goes into, but because of the familiarity and how he can pivot, because he's been in more perspective areas, you see how it shows up in different cultures in a way that's probably more apparent to you in how he might shift, not who he is, but even the nuances of how he might show up in those environments. Is that, I mean, would that be accurate? Like, Rob, I think you probably show up the same everywhere. It's just the nuances of how, right?
Oh yeah. 100%. And like I said, it's been interesting for me, and I've appreciated being, involved in it. I think it's very easy for us, like you said, to stay in our category, right?
Yeah.
To stay in our block, whatever that is, whether it's racial, whether it's religion, whether it's financial, whether it's sports, whatever it is, we like to stay with what we're comfortable doing, and to be more involved in these worlds and have more exposure in different types of worlds, which have occurred through my relationships with Rob. And like I said, it's also allowed me to see these different sides of him, of seeing him more as a complete person, than just the aspect of where I see him as CEO, CTO, right? As business partners, or in the aspect of, I was hiring him to take care of things. Our relationship over these years, especially over these last couple of years, have really changed during that time period.
Yeah, well, and I what I love about it too is that you are able to recognize the perspective that it's bringing you, and your willingness to put yourself into those spaces. Because the other side of this is when, if you've never been in a room where you're the only white guy or one of two white guys, and I don't care what the other race is.
Yeah.
If you've never been in a room like that, which many white guys have never been in.
Oh yeah.
Right? You don't really understand, one, what it's like to be the only one in the room in that type of capacity, right? Where there's racial or ethnic type elements. But the other side of this is when you become the only one, particularly, and I say this with love and respect, when you kind of get the approval card because of who you walked in with, you also get access to be a part of that community in a way that you may not have been given an invitation otherwise.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And again, that's perspective and understanding in a way that's super fucking powerful. But what I see in both of you that I really want to call a shitload of respect and attention to, in the little time I've seen the two of you interact, these are the conversations that need to be had everywhere right now. As openly, as transparently, as real as you two have had with each other, as you two have created for bringing each other into different perspectives. And yes, there's a business and a personal component here, but here's the reality. We are in a highly divided world right now because people cannot communicate and get out of their comfort zones and be able to have civil discourse and conversation around topics that have become so taboo if you don't know the right word to say or how to say it in the exact right moment. And yet you two are navigating that real time with beauty, grace, and bumps along the way, because that's what it is.
No, I agree with you too. With all it, I think we've gotten to the point that being different or having different opinions is unacceptable to a lot of in a lot of different ways, right? And there is not, everything that I do, Rob does not always say and agree with, right? With all of it. And let's be honest, Rob's a pastor, okay? Rob works in a different world than me as a hyper competitive. I'll be like, fuck you. And then there's this is, and Rob's like, I can't go there with you. I can't, that's just not where I can go with all it. But on the other aspect of things, I know there's things about me where Rob is like, hey, I'm glad that he's able to say and do these things in the manner that he does them. He sees a value in who I am personality wise. But I will say this, I've always been thankful about Rob on one end of things, is that Rob has never sat there and said, hey, you have to change who you are as a person in order to fit into the box of the world that he's in at that moment. So I've always been free to be who I am and lead how I am. Okay. And I have my weaknesses. I have my strengths. Trust me, my wife could sit down and go through all of them. And one list.
So you're human like all of us.
But he's never forced me into that moment of saying, hey, our relationship or our friendship is based upon you changing who you are. And I hope that on my end, I haven't done the same to him on his side of saying, hey, I understand there are decisions that you've made. You've made a commitment to being a pastor, you made a commitment to being there for people, etc., in a different way than I have as far as all that. But he respects the aspects that I bring. And I definitely respect the aspects that he brings into the relationship, both professionally and personally.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Hey, Brian, to touch on something that you kind of said earlier, and watching your previous show, I know you guys were talking about scripture and stuff, so I know you get this. Paul, in his missionary journey, said, I am all things to all people for the sake of the gospel. So, he says, when I'm hanging out with Jews, I'm a Jew. When I'm hanging out with Greeks, I'm a Greek.
Yeah.
And a lot of people take that to mean, oh, you just be fake and pretend like you are, be a chameleon. No, he's saying be your authentic self and relate to them on that level, meet them where they're at and love on them as Christ loves us. And I've just kind of made that my life mission. And so I didn't start doing that because I'm a pastor. That's part of who I am, which is part of why I am a pastor. And so, I can walk into any situation and, when I'm hanging out, I warn my friends, I say, hey, listen, when I'm hanging out in Tacoma with my black friends and stuff, my language is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to use the slang that's accepted there. Right. I'm still not a guy that cusses up a storm. So I'm not going to do that. But, you'll see me greet people a little bit differently, right? It's not, hey, how you doing? Nice handshake, right? But
although you did that very well.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rob. It's not Bobby.
Exactly. And so bro becomes bruh, right? I mean, there's little nuances like that, but it's still authentically who I am. And then when I hang out with, Korean people, I start speaking Korean, and then culturally, my mind thinks differently when I'm speaking Korean. It's really weird. It's almost like there's two people living in my brain. And, when I switch on the Korean, you got to think differently, act differently. The amount of respect that you give to your elders just goes up. And I mean,
culturally,
it's just a cultural thing. And so, I love using that to help even navigate business waters because, when we're meeting with a top CTO of another company, I know I'm not at their level. I'm not a CTO of $1 billion company, and I have a lot of mad respect for that. And you'll hear me use more technological terms and things and buzzwords that are floating around in the tech community. But that's not really who I am all the time. But I can tap into that because I've studied and, it's what I do for us. And, I feel very comfortable no matter who I'm talking to. Because
there's a lot to be said about that, though. And I appreciate you calling attention to that. I mean, so similar to you, I wasn't born in another country, and I lived here first, but I lived in Australia before the age of 5. I lived in England before the age of 6. I've lived in different areas. And like I said, I've immersed myself into a variety of different groups. And, one of the areas that I teach is this concept that when you can get yourself to a place where you have nothing to justify, protect, or defend about who you are, right? And you've really done the work to know who you are, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, your heart, your intent, your soul, your desires, your boundaries, your values, your worth. You truly can be unwavering in any environment.
Yeah.
And with the traumatic areas I've been in and the people that I've known and the situations that I've been in, I have been in some of the most obscure, potentially or perceivably dangerous situations, being the only white guy in multiple different places in different communities. And yet there's no issue.
Mm-hmm.
I am totally comfortable being wherever I need to be, whoever I need to be. And yet I'm always the same person. But to your point, if I'm talking with my brother, I'm talking to some of my boys that I grew up with, I might use different language or act a little differently because we're still channeling that 12 and 14-year-old self, right? I meet people from college or from a professional environment or, right? If I'm you're exactly right. But what you just said is the acknowledgement of the power of perspective and the power of actually meeting people where they are.
Yeah.
Not expecting them to meet you. Right. And by doing that, when you go into different communities, it's really powerful. I love the way you guys speak about these topics in general. Chad, well, I will tell you, though, you did not get the beauty and the beautiful skin. You do have a beautiful voice. And I had to at least find a way to acknowledge something about you.
You're totally kidding. You're a badass. And
He's digging deep, right?
No,
a face for radio.
I have told you that.
A face for radio. I was literally just about to say he's got a face for radio. Yes.
Oh, fuck both of you.
Yes. It's okay, bro. I have a face for radio too. I'm the exact same. I got you. But look, we're going to go a little bit further into a different components of this conversation. But because I love the camaraderie that exists, the ability to kind of poke fun at each other as well, I want to do something totally on the fly, impromptu that I've never done on this show before, with especially two partners in a business who are also friends. It's almost a 2 or 3 part question, and I don't know exactly how it's going to come out. So bear with me because it's as raw and you receiving it as me it coming out of my mouth. I want you guys to each speak about the other person in 3 categories or 2 or 3 categories, and we'll see where they are when I'm done. I want you to highlight, how would you describe the other person to a total stranger who has no context? I want you to highlight if there was a skill set or an ability or a personality trait that you could take from the other person and plug it into yourself to improve or be better. What is it? And the last is if there is a trait, a personality trait or a skill set or a pattern of behavior in the other person that you could take and remove it from them completely. Like, not take it yourself, but it's like it's gone. You eradicated the waste of this individual. What is it? So the 3-part question: how would you describe the other person to a complete stranger who doesn't know him? What are the traits or components about that person that you would want to take and plug into yourself if you could? And what are the traits, behaviors, or patterns of the other person that if you could remove and just throw it away, what would it be?
Okay.
Do you guys follow my questions?
Oh, yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in right off of all
the laughter,
this.
the devious laughter out the gate just tells me this is gonna be fucking fun. Let's go.
So, how would I describe Rob to somebody else with all of it? I would say this, and Rob is a fucking inquisitive tech nerd. And I think in general with it, he will dive into something because he wants to know how it works. He wants to know how it works, but he also wants to know how he can fucking make it better. He wants to know how he can circumvent it. He can want to know how he can sharpen it up. He wants to know how he can take advantage of it to win with it. Rob has that ability where he wants to sit there. And this is one of the things that sometimes drives me fucking crazy with him. Like we'll go, for example, we'll go shoot like one of our commercials or we'll shoot one of our things, and he will fuck around with the lights in 10 different angles and 10 different ways. But he wants to make sure that he knows how it's working. He wants to know how he can make it better. And he wants to have that result that he's looking for. Right. But Rob is, like I said, if I describe Rob with all of it, I would say, hey, that he is this just super inquisitive, just tech nerd that really wants to learn how everything works. And he wants that knowledge. He craves it. He craves that knowledge to be able to know, well, and no matter what it is, whether it's on the financial end, if it's on the tech end, if it's on the emotional end, the counseling end, whatever it is, he wants to know that, and he dives deep inside of it.
I'm so happy you wrapped around that last part, because I was going to interject and ask you, wouldn't you suggest that that's him with people too?
Oh, 100%. He dives in. And I will say this when, that second part of your question is, what part of him could make stronger on my end? And it is his ability to care for people and not just for a large group of people. And I've told him this many times. I was like, hey, being a pastor of a church would be fucking exhausting to me. The fact that I would have to take on that many responsibilities of truly caring for people. Now I can do it on my end in a small group. I'm very much, I want to take one person, or I want to take 2 or 3 people, and I want to make a difference, and I want to be significant in their life. Even within the real estate brokerage, I made a decision. We were growing it up to 40, 50, 60 plus people. And I just had to sit there and go, I can't do this. It is too draining. There's not enough of me to go around, and I can't make a significant enough difference. I'm just wasting my time and their time. So we ramped it down. I said, hey, I can only really pour into this many people in the way that I want to do it. And to be honest with you, I get tired. I get exhausted mentally, physically, etc. after a certain number. Rob's able to do that, sometimes in all honesty, to the detriment of himself. And I've talked to him about this, that he will work himself physically ill. Okay. Yeah. Where he is physically breaking down off of things, in order to be able to give and pour into other people. So while I sometimes think there's a better balance with all of that, I will say that is definitely an aspect of him that that if I could get some more of it, if I could pour some more of that into me, is that I do respect 100% with all of it. So
before you answer the third question, I have to interject real quick. So Rob, I have to ask you, To the last part of what he just said, how much of that behavior of trying to meet people where they are, make them feel seen, understood, connected, and giving them a sense of belonging is attributable to all of the times that you did not feel you belonged and you did not feel seen and understood?
That's a really good question. I would say that in the beginning of my ministry, I was driven by the lack of this or the lack of that. Whether it was, I didn't go to school and seminary, before I became a youth pastor. And so I was kind of driven by my lack of credential and had to make up for it by just on my own time, just diving into the word and really making sure I knew my stuff. So if a parent came and said, "Hey, where'd you go to seminary?" "Oh, I didn't go to seminary." Then what business do you have teaching my kid the Bible? Well, I know the Bible, like quiz me right now. Like I know it. Right. And then honestly, after 20 some odd years in ministry, like that's not what drives me anymore. I've been able to, look into past hurts, the, performance driven relationship that I had with my mom, where no matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. If I didn't bring home an A, I busted my butt and I got an A minus, in this, one college class. And I was just like, I was dreading this final because I just felt underprepared, but I just, buckled down and just got an A minus. I was like, I'll take it. And I took that to my mom, and I remember saying, "Mom, I got an A minus in this class." And she goes, "Oh, you didn't get an A?" I was like, "What's an A minus?" She goes, "But that's not good as an A, right?" And it just deflated me. I was like, come on, I can't please you. But my relationship with my mom, especially since my dad passed and my stepdad passed, it's very different now. It's very different now. I don't feel like I have anything to prove to my mom. I know that she's proud of where I am in life. And I'll tell you something. When I was working in computer science, my mom was very happy, and she would tell all of her friends like, "Hey, my son's a computer programmer and he's making this much money a year." And she was very proud. And then there came a burnout where I was just like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't want to be in a cubicle 60 to 80 hours a week, just crunching code. I'm a people person as well. And so, I quit that job. And I started working at this dive shop in Bellingham, and I was a dive master. I was making minimum wage, which back then was like $7 an hour, plus $45 a dive. That's all I was getting paid. And I proposed to my wife while I was working there. I had to ask my roommate, "Hey bro, is it cool if I am a month behind on rent? You cover me this month and then I'll pay you back because I want to buy a ring to propose to my wife." And he was like, "Yeah, I'm cool with that." So I had to save 2 paychecks in order to buy this tiny little diamond ring. It was all I could afford at the time. But you know what? I was happy. I wasn't making a lot of money. I was living paycheck to paycheck and then borrowing from my friend. But you know what? I was just very happy. And I remember when I told my mom I'm quitting this job, this computer programming job, she cried. She cried. But then interestingly enough, fast forward a bunch of years, when I left my regular work to become a pastor, to go into vocational ministry, she was so happy. Because one of the things that I didn't know is in Korean culture and a lot of Asian culture in general, they hold certain jobs to a high degree: doctor, lawyer, engineer, and unlike America, pastor is right up there.
Oh, wow.
So if I had told her, "Mom, I just got my PhD, I'm a doctor," she would have been just as happy. And she's bragging all her friends, "Yeah, this is my son." She doesn't talk about the businesses that I run or anything like that. She doesn't talk about, "Oh, he's building Swyvvl. I don't know what that is." She says he's a pastor. And even though it's a very small church, she's like just so proud of that. So from that moment forward, if I felt like, my mom's not expecting anything more of me. I have nothing to, she's proud of me. I know that, and so, I appreciate you asking that though.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Chad, let's hammer home the third part of that question, the third tier on that, and then we'll come back to Rob to do it for you.
Rid of, bro?
I already know. Okay. I already know. And he knows this too. And that's the thing about between the professional and the personal relationship we've had. I am brutally honest of where I'm feeling about certain things with all. And I think that what works with our relationship is is that we are able to confront that, and then we're able to move forward. We're able to move on. I'll tell you right at the start, the thing that fucking drives me fucking crazy with him is and this is also one of the positives, but it is the negative aspect of that positivity, is he is drawn too thin in too many directions in too many different ways, which makes it difficult sometimes for, in my opinion, with him, for him to excel at what he's doing at that moment. Because he is really good on the tech side of things, right? But he is at times drawn in so many different directions, whether it's the pastor side of things, whether it's the personal side of things, because he won't tell you he also DJs. I mean, he does a lot of things because he has so many in his mind, his inquisitive mind. He wants to know and be involved in so many different things. But I think on the flip side, the negative side of it is that it does stop him at certain points, being able to get to that 100%. He may be able to give a 70 or an 80% effort or a 70 or 80% final result with it. But if he could focus and eliminate some of the other things, he would be at, 100% just sharp as shit, just ready to go with all of it. And I think for me, that can be the struggle. And we've talked about it. We're like, hey, as Swyvvl grabs ground and moves forward, you're going to have to let go of certain things that you enjoy. If you're going to move forward as the CTO and the co-founder of this company, you may have to remove yourself as being a pastor. You may have to remove yourself as far as being a DJ or running a digital media company, etc., because you're not going to be able to have that time. And Swyvvl is going to require that intense focus of getting the best of you. And right now we've been fortunate to be at the point with Swyvvl of where, as it's growing, we have had to do other things, right? Because it wasn't paying the bills. It wasn't to the point where we could walk away from a successful real estate brokerage, or him walk away from being a pastor, or walk away from other aspects of his life that he enjoys. And I think that might be a challenge for him when the time comes. I think being able to say goodbye to those things that are aspects of who he is as a person is going to be a challenge for him. And in all honesty, we've kind of had this conversation, but we're also having it in front of you. I'm not 100% certain he's going to be able to do that. He's told me he's going to be able to do that. I think he thinks he's going to be able to do that. But when that time comes, and as it gets closer and closer, to be able to say goodbye to those aspects of his life and to have to be singularly focused on one thing, we'll see how that goes. But I think that would be the thing that, and this is such a hard question, right? You're just setting us up for those hard.
Well, no.
Yeah, but it's true though, right? It's necessary.
I think the reason I asked it though is because I feel like you guys can have the discussion.
Yeah.
And here's the truth of the matter. What you're doing real time is demonstrating the complexities of relationships, expectations, opinions, right? Like projections into the future that we fabricate. And also the care that you have for the human being. I'm going to ask you both this. Do I have permission to reflect something back based on what I just heard and what I've experienced with you both so far? It's specifically connected to what you just said. And I want to start by saying this. I don't give two fucks about being right. I care about getting it right.
Yeah.
So if anything I say doesn't land, throw it back. Like, this is not me trying to tell you anything. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. I get the sense that Rob is highly present with whatever he's doing. So despite the fact that there's multiple different irons in the fire and he may not have the total amount of time that you want, in the time that he is there, he's present, active, and moving things forward. I get the sense that that's the case holistically in your life. Rob, am I even accurate at all?
Yeah. Oh.
Chad, would you say that's an accurate description?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think he very much is focused on what he's doing there at that moment with it. It's just getting enough moments for him to be able to, continue through to finishing it up successfully with it. And like I said, I mean, he does great work. He does phenomenal work and everything that he's doing with it. It's just him finding enough time to be able to get it to that end result.
Well, and so here's where I come full circle with it. I wanted to make sure that the description of Rob was even accurate, because I've known you, an hour, Rob? Like, I mean, I'm making these observations based on very little interaction. I obviously read people pretty well, but still, I want to confirm before I say anything further. it's interesting because what I want to highlight, Chad, is that I think it's actually the levels of scarcity that exist within you that are projecting that onto Rob.
It could be.
And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? There's an element of you lack the ability to control him, his time, his energy, and his focus. You still have ownership of this in the sense that it's your idea, your baby, your initiative. And though he is your partner and he did invest in it, there's this element of like you're holding on to this because it's something that you believe so much in.
Yeah.
And it's difficult, I think, in moments for you to feel or believe that anybody could care about this as much as you do. But what I'm also suggesting is you've been very single-minded focused for your entire life, which is in direct contrast to how he's lived his.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. You've been all deep in real estate and whatever I had to do in this single-minded area of focus, whereas he's been broadening and getting perspective in all of these different areas, this collective element of wisdom that's been derived from all this variety of issues. Now, what I'll also say is Rob clearly is somebody who will say yes, even when he doesn't have the capacity to say yes. And he's clearly somebody who has been taken advantage of both from a financial and an emotional extortion perspective in his life because of his tendency to do so, because of how much he cares.
Yeah.
But what I would suggest is that if he tells you something, you're the one who has to decide that you're going to trust it unilaterally until his actions demonstrate otherwise.
Yeah.
Because here's the other truth. It sounds to me like he's got multiple kids, multiple businesses that he's running that have to be there to support his pastoral work and these side passions and these pieces. And until Swyvvl gets to some critical mass that he can change directions, he won't change directions completely.
Yeah.
However, I think the second he sees it for what you both believe it could be, my guess is it's then a matter of which dominoes get knocked over and fall.
Oh yeah. Oh, 100%. And I do agree. Like I said, the nice thing about us is that we do approach life in different manners, in different ways. While we have a lot of shared experiences and we have a lot of shared beliefs, there's also a lot of differences.
You're very different people.
Yeah, very different. I mean, I am who I am with things, especially on the CEO end of things, of guiding and leading on that side. While he very much has that mindset of that CTO, of that building and getting into figuring out why it works, not just that it works or why it works. I mean, we have during our conversations, I'll often come to him and I'll be like, okay, this is what I want done. Okay.
Yep.
And he'll tell me, yep, it's good. And this is possible. But then I've learned that my next follow-up question with him is, yeah, but can we do it right now? Because here we'll get very involved in the idea and love where it can go and what we can do. For example, we've talked about with Swyvvl we're in the final beta version with all of it, but it doesn't have certain aspects that we want to build out as time goes on. So as we go into version 2.0, whether it's AI or it's blockchain, crypto, the whole deal that we want to add into it. So I'll come to him and say, okay, here's my vision. This is what I want to do. And he'll be like, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. And in my mind, I think to myself, that means we can do this right now, even with our limited, resources, our limited team, with all the limitations that we have. Because that's the hardest thing about building a business or a prop tech, right? It isn't the idea, right? It is being able to pull off the execution of the idea with limited time and limited resources. That's the hardest part of all. Everyone thinks, oh, I got a great idea. it's going to be phenomenal. It's all going to work. And that's not how it works. It's the managing to put together the team and keep the team going long enough with basically zero resources, time-wise and financially, in order to be able to have that idea catch up financially to start providing the resources for you. So with him, we found 100%. Out in our conversations, it is not just, hey, can we do it? But it is, can we do it right now with it? And then we have to dial it back in order to make sure that hey, that's for the next version or something like that.
100%. And so here's where I'm just going to, again, just be totally transparent and reflect, because you guys gave me the permission to, and push back whatever doesn't land. Because again, I don't care about being right. But Chad, I think that's the interesting dynamic, is that you associate as being extremely direct. But what's also interesting is, as you answered that question, and we've talked about it a little bit further, you also have this desire to protect him in your language.
Yeah.
And with that layer of protection, it also can lead to sometimes a lack of clarity because you don't want to hurt his feelings because you love him and respect him, but you also want to hold him accountable. And that's like you're walking this interesting path. But what I would suggest is even the nature and nuance of, yeah, but can we do it right now? The nuance of even asking the question just slightly differently. Because I'll bet you the answer to that question is almost always going to be no, even if he was 100% committed.
Yeah.
Right? There's a timeline to everything. So instead of layering an expectation of pressure around what you already know is limited capacity, instead the question could be, okay, great. If we can do this, what's it going to take? And what do you think the amount of time and resources are going to be required to pull it off?
Yeah.
Then it's not about layering an expectation of a timeline. It's you then communicating the path to get there and you asking the questions that might speed it up or ratchet it down. Do you see the nuance in the difference there?
Yeah. I do. I guess my or the way I approach it sometimes is I want to find out what someone's capable of. And over the years, I've been able to find that out with Rob. We've gotten to that point where like naturally our relationship is, but I feel like until you push someone, and I don't mean in a mean way, but a lot of times I feel like a lot of people, myself included, we don't know what we're capable of and we don't know what we're able to do success wise, because oftentimes it's way more than what our mind is telling us or what our heart thinks that we can do with all of it. But we have to have that person that says, hey, I need you to go a little bit beyond where you think you can go with all it. Now, I will agree with you fully. Over time, Rob and I have found these things out with each other, and we've now defined them with where they're at.
Yeah.
So that's where that would work with all of it. But like I said, it has been a process of saying, okay, is it truly you can't do this? Or is it truly you can't do this because you're not 100% focused on it time wise and resource wise in order to be able to get there? So it's been a learning lesson for us.
Well, and again, I realize this is a really untraditional way in how I'm going about this with these questions, and I'm going full circle to have Rob answer them as well. But Chad, I can see the respect. I can see the love. I can see the intention. I can see the work that you've all done. But again, just even this nuance of, do you like to be pushed, or do you like it when someone pulls the best out of you?
I'll say this. I think in order to pull the best out of me, I have to be pushed a little bit. I have to know that there's more than what, and that I can go further, even when my mind is telling me I can and my body's telling me I can't.
Which is belief, right?
Which is, I have to know that, like, for me to grow, for me personally on my side, I grow, right? When someone's pushing me further than I think I can go. But if that person doesn't sit there and push me further than I think I can go, I will never grow. I need to know that that person's pushing me and that they know that that why they're pushing me is they have the belief that I can do it.
But that's the nuance that I'm exactly trying to highlight.
Yeah.
See, pushing somebody can feel like pressure and lack of belief, which can translate to shame and it's not good enough. Whereas, Rob, I know how good you are. I believe in what you're capable of, and you might not be able to see it with the capacity at this current moment, but this is what I believe to be possible. How do we make that happen? And how can I support you in the path? Right? There's a difference. And again, I'm not trying to coach you real time on this show or suggest that you're doing anything wrong. Truly. But I see what's here and I'm like, you guys are badass. And this is like, the gap is so little. So let's flip the script, unless you wanted to say anything else, Chad, and have Rob answer the same 3 questions.
Well, I'm going to go backwards. And the reason is I believe that this last bit of conversation and your reflection back is kind of highlighting exactly what my answer to the third part would be.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. I love Chad's drivenness. If there was one thing that I could change, is that a lot of what comes down the pipeline is based on Chad's experience. Right. And so I do feel like there are times where somebody who has different experiences can bring something to the table to broaden our horizon as a team and look at different perspectives. But I do think there are some times where Chad maybe is uncomfortable with a different perspective because he's never experienced it. And so he goes, well, I only know my way, so let's just do it my way. Yeah. Right. And as he's the CEO and I'm the CTO. So bottom line is what he says goes. So I'll give him feedback and I say, bro, I really, really think we need to do this. And if he's not feeling it and he says, nah, let's just do it the other way. We'll do it the other way. And I've grown in my life to be a big enough person where if it does fail, I'm not going to go, bro, I told you so. I'll just say, hey, we tried it this way. This is where we're at, man. Could I suggest that we try it this other way now? And one of the things I do appreciate about Chad is that if it comes to that, he'll go, yeah, you know what? The last way got all messed up. Let's try it that way.
I believe that. I believe that.
Yeah. And so
I believe that. And by the way, a nuance in the language you just used that I want to reflect back because I picked up on it and I just want to make sure Chad heard the love in it. When you first started in the first example, when you were like trying to be in that encouragement, you said, brah. And then when you were in the, it didn't go well, it's bro.
Yeah.
and I know because you said it earlier, there is a distinction in the nuance of that. And so he basically is saying to you in the beginning, brah, you're family, man. Yeah. That's huge.
Well, he is, right? And so, I mean, that's probably the only thing is that I would say that I think there are a few times where we did like a 1 step forward, 2 steps back, where we could have prevented that, but eventually the result ended up the same. And so my thing is that what I've learned over the years is that when people do say, hey, look, I'm going to stand behind this idea 100%, it's going to work, and then it doesn't work, and they try it the other way and it works. If people are wise, they grow from that and they start to see, like, okay, all right, there was some merit to that. I'll give him that. Okay. Yeah. And so the thing that I would take from Chad is he has the ability to unwaveringly stick to his guns on things. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's almost like I don't give a crap what you feel. This isn't about feelings. We're going to do this, whether you like it or not. And sometimes I don't have enough of that because I don't want to, I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. I want to honor the fact that they've got their ideas and whatnot. But at the same time, I'm not willing to just pull the trigger and say, you know what? We're done talking about it. We're not going to hear anybody else's idea because I don't care. I've already made up my mind. But Chad is honest to a fault, and he's brutally honest. And he will tell the team, I don't give a bleep what you're thinking right now. I don't give a bleep what you're going through personally in your life. We all need to buckle down right now or this isn't going to work. And I'm like, that's not the way that I would try to encourage the team. But I do like that decisiveness. And look, we are going for this. We're all in. It's like
unwavering conviction.
Absolutely.
I mean, it is something that's required, especially from a visionary.
Yeah. So I would describe Chad to people as somebody who might come across a little rough and gruff on the outside, but has a very clear idea of where he wants this company to go and is wise enough to surround himself with people that have the skill set that he doesn't have in order to get there. And I would also say that with that rough exterior, on the inside,
don't give up any secrets.
He's a big teddy bear.
Don't you fucking give up.
I was just gonna say. I was gonna ask. Is he kind of like a gummy bear on the inside?
Chad is a big gummy bear. He really is.
I mean, I can feel that. I can totally really feel that.
I mean,
so now you're putting that out there.
Listen, like, there's a couple of times where Chad will come into my office and close the door, and it's a closed door conversation, right? And sometimes it's, we're talking finances and nobody else needs to be privy to this. Sometimes it's, bro, I think you stepped in it and I'm kind of upset with you. But sometimes it's just, hey man, I just wanted to check in. How are you doing? He doesn't like people to know that there's that side of him, but sometimes he does. I mean, like he talked about some of his health issues. I mean, I've got diabetes and I've got some other things. And those times where I have been being pulled a million different ways. And so my health does suffer from it. Chad has come to me with a lot of compassion and understanding saying, hey man, are you good? Because you just seem like really run down. You don't have your normal energy and all that. Is everything okay? Do we need to cancel this meeting today? Like, are you good? And I know where he's coming from and I appreciate that. And at the same time, there's those times where he'll come to me, and this is also out of love, where he'll say, hey, I really need you to focus right now. I know you got a million things going on, but like, I don't care. Like, get your crap together and let's do this, and sometimes that's what's needed, but it's very much a give and take relationship. I think you are very astute. Like you said, we've only known each other for a short time, but I like what you're reflecting back to us because I feel that you're a good listener. And you've obviously got some life experiences to be able to reflect back accurately to people that you don't know very well based on what they're saying. And so I appreciate you.
Well, thank you for saying that. I received that from you, and now's my turn to reflect something back to you. Just because I think this is something that is what I love is the congruence and the synchronicity of both of your answers and what they say both about what you see in each other as well as what that fucking mirror is holding up for you. Right. And to even the point of what I was reflecting back with Chad when I was trying to get clarity on you beforehand, before I went into what I actually shared, I think that I'm going off complete intuition, Rob. And I'm going to say this with, I don't give a shit about being right. I care about getting it right. So please don't take any of this with any shame, blame, criticism at all. But, and frankly, I'm raising my hand to say that what I'm about to reflect in you is also something that's very much something that I've dealt with. Right. So it's real to me. I think you may be getting better, but I still don't think you know how to say no. And I think that there is an area within you that you would serve yourself greatly by investing time and energy in learning how to receive. You don't have to carry all the weight. And you also don't have to say yes and do all and do everything for everyone. And the really interesting thing is though I don't think you probably suffer a ton from self-worth in as deep of an area as I know you likely probably did in the past because of all the work you've done to invest in yourself and growth and understanding. One of the things that is interesting about this is you can clearly see the performance arc in the who versus the what, but yet a lot of your actions and behaviors are still driven by your value being contingent upon you. And the interesting thing is those that get financially and emotionally extorted, by the way, I've been one of them, right? Often feel like they are less worthy in some ways in the subconscious as a virtue of I keep getting taken advantage of or I keep getting burned. But the flip to that is, and this is for both of you to hear, those that actually say yes more often and who have opened themselves to financial and emotional extortion are actually the most valuable people that exist because people are actually asking them for the value that they have to offer. It's just not positioned that way because it's been taken advantage of. And so one of the things I would just really, really encourage for you is pay attention to those dynamics and those boundaries that you set and realize that boundaries aren't you removing people from your life. It's creating boundaries in a way that allows you to maintain all the people and things that are important to you.
I hear that. I appreciate it.
Did that land at all or was I off base?
No. It landed. I mean, I've had frank conversations with other pastors because I came into this thing. It's a calling and, I don't look at it as something I do. It's part of who I am.
Of course. You're a vehicle for the message.
But at the same time, because I came into being a lead pastor in a more unconventional way, I didn't go to Bible college and then seminary and then become a lead pastor. I just got called into it. Right. And so there is always a little bit of this imposter syndrome lingering in the background. I had a conversation with a guy, just at a conference, a month ago, and he goes, "Oh yeah, where did you go to seminary?" And I go, "I didn't." And he goes, "Oh, what Bible college did you attend?" I go, "I didn't." And I didn't offer any more explanation. But at the same time, I could see the look on his face like, then why are you a lead pastor, man? Like, it was like, and I felt like I didn't have to justify myself to him. And so, I just let it sit there. And then he thought about it for a second and then he just moved on. And he says, "Okay, well, you can still relate to this because you're a lead pastor." So then he went on to his lead pastor talk. And so, yeah, there is a little bit of that there. And you're right. If I think I can do something for someone, I want to do it. Like if you called me up after this podcast and said, "Dude, I've been swamped with podcasts. Is there any way you could edit this one? I know that you own a digital media company. You have the skills." I'd want to say yes. I'll be honest. I want to say yes because I go, you know what? This is my new friend, Brian, and I don't want to let him down. I'd love to be able to do that. The truth is right now, I do not have the time. So I would have to say no. But there's a part of me that will want to say yes.
And here's what I will also say is because I know that's your default. Here's the other side. Contextually, it makes sense. You've known me for a fucking hour. But if you've known somebody for 5 hours and you've had lunch with them and you've done something with them, they may still not be your inner circle, but yet you're probably, especially if the geography makes sense, you're probably going to say, yes, I'm going to help you. And so one of the things that I'm just really challenging is I love that about you. In fact, that's one of your superpowers. But I also want you to remember that imposters don't get imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Sociopaths don't get imposter syndrome because they're fucking sociopaths. It doesn't even register that they could be an imposter, because why would they be? They're the greatest fucking thing that ever happened. But the fact that you even have that suggests that you're not. Because if you were, you would never even experience imposter syndrome if you were one.
That's good.
So own the elements. Like, do you know the number of times, especially early in my coaching career, that a corporation would ask me about my coaching credentials and where I went and I did these things? And in the very beginning, it might have made me shrink a little bit, but only for a second. But here's the reality. I would actually rather have somebody who went to the school of hard knocks and has a real lesson in humanity and what the lessons of God are, and who studied and memorized the fucking Bible to be tested, to be able to deliver the word of God in his own interpretation, over somebody who was trained within the man-made structure to teach you how to translate the word of God outside of your own fucking interpretation. That's where all the shame and blame in the fucking religious world comes from anyway, is our own man-made interpretation of what God's meaning was, instead of what our own ability to interpret even is. Is that not correct?
Yeah, I agree with you 100%.
So my point is like, dude, I'd fucking swag that shit all over the place. I'd flex that all the time. I'm a lead pastor and I didn't go to Bible school. I didn't have to go to pastoral training. I just did it. What, you needed to go to school to learn how to teach people the word of God? I just read the Bible and I was a human. But all this camaraderie and joy comes back full circle to the piece that's obvious. Chad being a fucking gummy bear on the inside, you having perspective out the fucking world and days and wanting to help people. Here's the reality. That's why Swyvvl even exists, is to create more transparency and to create a more fair and equitable system so that people can actually operate within this industry in a way that, one, both for their own personal use, and even on the investor side, there's not this excess waste that's being driven based on greed or structural elements within the industry.
Yeah.
And so as we bring this conversation towards the tail end, I promised you both, I wanted to feature you, your partnership, and the things that you're up to. But now I want you to talk a little bit more about why Swyvvl, and what's the vision? And Rob, what was it about this that non-industry made you jump in? And you guys can tag team however you want on this answer, but let's just bring us into the purpose of Swyvvl, why you're doing it, what's driving your hearts, and what the vision for it to become will be.
You know, for me, where it all came from was this. We have an industry that hasn't changed in probably 20 plus years. Right before the Great Recession hit, and during that time period is when truly Zillow, all these platforms came into play. And we were having a conversation actually before we jumped on this podcast with somebody else. And I said, hey, over the last 20 years, nothing's changed. You have a platform like Zillow. They've created an IDX fee that all the listings that are potentially available are available to a buyer. Seller gets a additional exposure for their listings. They hook you up with a real estate agent. They take 30, 40, 50% of that commission from that real estate agent, and that's all you get out of it. And that's been going on for 20 plus years. And that commission rate, or that client referral rate, that marketing fee that they're charging real estate agents, et cetera, has went up from 20% to 30% to 40% to 50%. And they still need to keep on increasing it. And a platform, for example, such as Redfin, has never actually made a profit. Just sold for $1.75 billion. Never made a profit.
Never made a profit.
Never made an actual profit, right? So and the problem too is in the real estate industry is that it is constricting. So we are having, for example, Rocket Mortgage just bought Redfin because they wanted to have access to all the buyers and sellers on it and all the real estate agents on it. Okay. They figured there's the only way they could keep market share and the only way that they could keep growing. Okay. They also bought Mr. Cooper, which was like another huge mortgage company. We have Compass, who just is in process of buying Anywhere Real Estate. Well, Anywhere Real Estate incorporates all like Berkshire Hathaway, Century 21, and a bunch of other real estate franchises. So as you're seeing this, there's probably about 5 to 10 companies that control probably 90% of the entire real estate world on the financial side and also on the real estate brokerage side, right? So home buyers and home sellers and real estate agents are losing the ability to be able to have choice, to be able to make decisions. So I was sitting there and I'm like, hey, I'm a Redfin partner agent. So they send me a client lead. I go out there. I help that client buy a home. I then pay a client referral fee of 35, 40%, which can be $5, $10, $15,000 or more back to Redfin. Number one, the home buyer, home seller has no idea I'm doing that, even though it's their business that's being sold. Number two, they don't get a share in any of that money. Number three, it's serving to artificially increase the costs that are already high of buying and selling homes, right? We already know that for the first time in the United States history, the average salary that someone makes does not qualify for them to buy the average home. So we know all of these things. And I said, hey, okay, we've been in this method. We've been in this thing where the last biggest thing that happened in real estate was having these platforms like Truly, Redfin, and Zillow come into play. They've been in play for 20 plus years, and they have not made any significant difference in the life of the real estate agent, the home buyer, the home seller, who are the major players in all of this. And I said, hey, somebody needs to stand up. And someone needs to say, hey, instead of this money going to a huge tech firm, okay, that are making billions of dollars off all of it, why don't we turn around and repurpose and take that money and give it back to the real estate agent, give it back to the home buyer and the home seller in order to benefit them? So they can use it for down payments, closing costs, move-in expenses, appraisal fees, inspection fees, all of these things where this money could be going to, rather than where it's currently going to. So that was really where my heart was. I was sitting there and I was watching people struggle to get into homes. I was watching them struggle to save for their down payments. I was watching them struggle for all of the fees that are associated with it. And then at the end of the day, I'm surreptitiously, and I may have said that horribly as far as the fucking word with it, but I am sliding $5, $10, $15,000 back to a company that my clients don't even know I'm doing. And they're not benefiting from any of it when they should be the ones who are benefiting from it. So that's where my heart came from. I said, hey, after 20 years of doing this in the exact same way with little to no change in what we're doing, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And then that's how it all started. And I've been thinking about this for like 10 plus years already. But then when we started to go into COVID, I was like, okay, it's time. It's time to actually start putting this into play. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's see what we can do with developing the platform. And let's see how we can do it once people find out, once they're educated, right? Because there's a large amount of ignorance in there. Yep. I could line up 100 people and 99 of them would tell me, hey, I've been on Truly, I've been on Zillow, I've been on Redfin, I've asked to be contacted by a real estate agent, I've asked to be represented by a real estate agent. I had no idea that real estate agent was paying Redfin, Realtor, Truly, Zillow $5, $10, $15,000 or more back. Why am I not getting that money? So it's really being able to educate people and bring that information to the forefront in order to benefit the actual players that are in the game who should be benefiting from it. Why is a home buyer and home seller whose business is getting sold behind their back, right? Why are they not the ones benefiting from it?
Yeah.
Like, there's no answer to that. So that's what we're trying to change. We're trying to say, hey, here's a new platform for doing things for the next 20 years in which we're going to take those resources and we're going to allow the people to access them who should be able to access those resources.
I love that. And Rob, as a non-real estate guy, a pastorpreneur with your hands in multiple pots, right? Mm-hmm. You had a little gravy pot client that was paying you to do this for him. And then you decided, shit, I don't want to get paid anymore. I want to pay to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Why?
What it came down to was when Chad first approached us, he was very much like he described old Chad from A to Z. Like he already had this plan of how he was going to get there. Believe it or not, and this is going to wind up in the Swyvvl Museum, Chad had looked at a couple of websites for inspiration and he drew the websites that he wanted. So he first says, I don't know if you guys can even do this, but I have a website. But before I even tell you, before you can decide whether you can do it, I need to sign some NDAs. So I was like, okay, all right, sign. So we signed some NDAs. Everybody at Alethea Digital Media had to sign an NDA. And then we had a team meeting and he laid it out and he handed us this stack of papers. This is what the homepage is going to look like. This is what the buyer seller page is going to look like. And he just said, can you make this website? He didn't say, can you design the website? Can you use your UI UX knowledge to build a better interface for our website? No, he just said, can you make this website? And I said, yeah, we can make that website. So we made that website and it was not great. But part of the thing that made us as we were working on that first iteration, there was a point where we had the website about 80% done. And it was to a point where Chad could log into the website. We had published it to the domain and he could start clicking around. He could start creating an account and all of this stuff. And then he asked an all important question. And we laugh at this story now, but at the time it was infuriating. He says, how does it look on mobile? And,
well, fuck, we haven't optimized for that shit yet.
So
God damn it.
I called my developer. I called my developer and I said, hey, did you do a side-by-side mobile build on this? He goes, no, it wasn't spec'd out. We were literally asked to build this website, which didn't have any mobile like plans. It was just 1920 by 1080 sites drawn out on paper. And so we built exactly what he asked for. But it was the simplicity and the principle behind what Chad was trying to do at Swyvvl that made me go, hey, hold on a second. You're right. This needs to have mobile. So what I did, and this is part of the who I am, and he didn't even ask me to do this. I offered it. I said, give me 2 weeks. You'll have mobile. So what I did is, I already work 16 to 18 hour days, but I started putting in 20, sometimes 22 hour days, sleeping on my couch to go back through my code while my developer was still working on the desktop version. I started building the mobile version because I knew we had to have that. And so I think that went a long way for Chad to know that I made those same sacrifices. And he wasn't the only person in this business who was making sacrifices to get it done. And I think that built a little bit more trust to know that I was willing to sacrifice to make it happen. At that time, it was a transactional relationship. Like, you're paying me a set amount of money to build this desktop website. But as the owner of this company, I'm going to step up and I'm going to make the mobile no additional charge, because honestly, we should have been doing that all along. Even though you didn't ask for it, we should have offered to you, hey, by the way, do you want this on mobile as well? And so it was after that, I was like, man, this thing, I can't believe nobody has done this. It's so simple. And so for those that maybe haven't even seen the website or know how it works, what happens is if you go on to Zillow right now and you find a house, average house in Seattle, new home, just price is $1 million. So you find $1 million house on Zillow and you click on, I want to buy this house. They connect you with an agent. You're going to buy that house. Some $36,000 is going to go to commissions between the two agents. If you come onto our site, Swyvvl, you can find that exact same house. And when you click, I want to buy this house, our agents are basically competing to say, at the end of the day, at the end of the 5-day share experience, how much of this commission am I willing to give back to you? So you can buy the exact same house and get $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 in your pocket. And to me, that was such a no-brainer. I was like, the logic makes sense. When I accepted Jesus, I had seen the gospel portrayed on a flannel graph the summer of second grade at VBS. And the teacher asked, after seeing the gospel, like, who would like to accept Jesus into their heart? My hand shot up. I was like, it's a no-brainer. My options are accept Jesus and live in eternity in heaven, or die and go to hell. I mean, like, that's a no-brainer to me. I'm choosing Jesus. And so for me, it was that same type of clarity. It was like, why would anybody want to buy a house on another website and not get anything back? That just doesn't make sense. Yeah. And I love the competition. I love the fact that the agents get to choose. They're not told, oh, by the way, if you sell this house to this client, you're going to give up 40% of your commission. No, they get to bid, just like eBay, man. I bought a lot of stuff on eBay over the days, right? And I got to determine, is that piece of tech, do I really want it that bad? Because it started at $20, now it's at 120. What's my limit? And these real estate agents get to do the exact same thing. They get to go, okay, you know what? A little too rich for my blood. I'm going to bow out. I'm not willing to give more than 30% on this particular house. They can find another house and they can say, yeah, for this house, much higher price tag, I'll be willing to give 40% of my commission. I'm still going to make good money, right? Yeah. And the fact that money isn't going to some corporation, is going to ma and pa home buyer, who, like, everybody has a personal story, right? And I think about my mom and I go, if she wanted to buy a new house right now, like, she'd sell her house and take that equity and she'd put a down payment on a house. And, what if she can't afford it? Then who's she going to go to get the extra money or whatever? Yeah. And I think, you know what? People who are working hard every day, scraping together money, or they're retired and all they've got is their retirement earnings, they shouldn't have to sacrifice everything and go into debt to have a place to live that they can enjoy for the next 20, 30 years. So for me, it was that simple. If we can help home buyers and home sellers get some of that money back, instead of it going to these greedy corporations, I'm all in. And that's what changed it for me.
Well, I love the purpose and the passion and the clarity and the need to do this to make it fair, equitable, and help people. That's what's driving this in such a powerful way. Chad, I think it might have been you on the show on Friday that told me that we just in the first time in history passed where the average income can no longer afford the average priced home in this country. Was that you that shared that stat with me?
Yeah. I mean, and we know this, right? We know that for our kids, right? My kids are out of the house now and they're in their, mid and late 20s, but we know that as for in the United States, that most likely our kids will have a lower standard of living than what we have. Right.
Yeah.
So we know, and we've tracked this, right? Every society has hit this, whether it was the Greeks, the Romans, etc., where we've able to see where they've peaked and then we've seen where they've started to go downhill. And the question is, hey, is the United States there yet? Is that what we're doing right now? Are we on that same trajectory as all the other great societies have been? And then and then there's that downslide, right? But whether it's, this Spain or this, the whole deal with all it. So, and the reality is we very well may be, but the flip side of all of this is, how are we going to make that more affordable? How are we going to be able to change the way that homes are bought, sold, how home buyers and home sellers are dealt with, how agents are able to build their businesses, right? Because Swyvvl wasn't only just about my drive and desire to help home buyers and home sellers, even though that was a huge part of my heart. My other part of my heart was sitting there over a very long time period with a business that has an 87% failure rate in less than 5 years for most real estate agents, and having them cry in my office. Okay. As Rob likes to say, the teddy bear side of me. So I'm sitting there and I have real estate agents that are frantically trying to build their businesses. So when they get a phone call from a Truly or a Zillow that says, hey, we're going to give you, 10 client leads a month. It's going to cost you $6,000 a month in order to be able to do this. And we're going to save you. You're going to be able to build your business, et cetera. So they sign up for the contract. And then about 3-4 months into it, they find out that, hey, they have a 1 to 3% conversion ratio on those leads, and that the amount that they're going to make off of those leads is not going to probably most likely pay for what they're paying in their yearly contract. And they're sitting there, they're crying. They're like, I can't afford it. I'm not making the money I was promised that I was going to make off of it. How do I get out of it? I'm in a year-long contract. They say they're going to send me to collections, and we're trying to figure this way out. And when you do that 1, 2, 5, 10, 15, 25, 30 different times, you start looking at it and say, hey, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a better way to be able to benefit, like I said, not just the home buyers and home sellers, but also the real estate agents, to where all the people that are involved in that benefit. And that's really where my heart is at. And at this point, I'm on not the final season of my career, but I'm on the back half, right? I'm on the back 9 of everything with all that. And it's not just about making money. It's not just about being successful. We talked about how my viewpoint has shifted. It's more about saying, hey, is there a potential way before I leave, before I walk away from this game that I've been involved with for the last 20 plus years? Is there a way for me to change it in a significant manner where it will be changed for everybody who comes after me? And of course, as we know, I'm an A to Z guy, right? I got to fucking take my shot. I got to see if are we going to be pets.com? As we all remember, Super Bowl commercials went bright and then faded away. Or are we going to be Chewy, right? Who now, due to time and just a different environment, is now being massively successful, basically doing the exact same thing with all of it. But the time for Swyvvl, whether that's exactly right now, which we hope and think it is, or if it's later down the road, it's time to change how things are dealt with and handled.
I so appreciate that. And as somebody who has 4 dogs, 2 cats, and fosters 12 to 15 animals a year, I can tell you those Chewy boxes come regularly to our house. And you're right. I think you've got the chance to be in it for the long haul. I really, really appreciate the transparency, the vulnerability, the partnership, the camaraderie, just the dialogue and conversation today. You both are, I believe, the right partnership to make this happen, and driven from the right reasons with the right perspectives. And it's really cool to see the two of you align. And to even the point of what you're even making and saying, Chad, which is about providing opportunity and perspective for each other to shift, grow. And this is the impact and legacy phase in your careers. And that is cool that you've aligned and are so clear. As we come to the tail end of this interview, we are going to put obviously some of your links and things within the show notes. But I would ask, is there anything that the two of you would like to close with, say, or leave the audience with? Or are there any other questions that you feel I would have or could have asked you if the conversation went differently that you'd like to answer?
The only thing that I would say is what we described in Swyvvl right now is our first iteration, version 1.0. We don't want to be a one-trick pony. We want to continue to develop Swyvvl to be a one-stop shop for all real estate agents and the predominant home search site for anybody looking to buy or sell a home in America. We also have talked with people in other countries, and they're very interested in keeping an eye on Swyvvl and saying, hey, when will Swyvvl UK or Swyvvl Australia launch? And what are the different rules governing that? So, I mean, we're already having those conversations, but I want us to not be a one-trick pony. I want us to continue to innovate. I want us to look at the technologies that are existing and future technologies and keep asking the question, how can that be used to make this even better? And so we've got a lot of things down the pipe that we want to do. And so once we get some funding behind it, I mean, we're off to the races.
I'll say this. We've done a good amount of podcasts, et cetera, from, we've made the rounds and we've been involved in a lot, but I appreciate the perspective that you bring to it of finding out who we are as founders on not only on the professional side, but also on the personal side, because I think that plays a huge role in what we're doing. Mm-hmm. The idea behind people are going to it always frustrates me where every business went, oh, you're not an employee, you're family and all this other stuff. Cause I really feel like it's really just lip service the vast majority of time with all of it. But for us, truly, Swyvvl, for me, and I know for Rob, it really isn't. While we're here as business people and we really, and we're here, for us, it's more about changing how things are done so that it benefits more people. Cause that's really where our heart is at. Whether it's me and the front that I put up with the teddy bearness-ish, of it, or Rob's desire to serve that he has throughout his life. That really is with this. We are not here because we could have structured it in many different ways that would make us more money or benefit us more, or where it's just for the stockholders. And we talked about Redfin, right? We talked about how Redfin has not made a profit in all of these years. So you can make the argument that Redfin really was a play for the founders and the investors alone, that there really wasn't a benefit for the home buyers and the home sellers as far as that is. For us, it really is. We're not here trying to make as much money as possible. We really truly have the heart of, yes, we're going to make money and we're going to be successful and Swyvvl's going to be successful, but only if we're able to bring a value and a service to the home buyers and home sellers and real estate agents without taking advantage of them. So it really is our goal to walk that middle line to be able to provide that value to all three parties while not taking advantage of them. And that's where our heart comes in. So that's why I really enjoyed this conversation with you, where it's not been a sales thing for Swyvvl, because I fucking hate that. I don't need to be sold on things, just constantly just hammered, go to Swyvvl.com, go to Swyvvl. Now that BS is not what we do, but it's been nice to be able to say, okay, here's our personalities, both personal and also work-wise and professional. Here's how it's been poured into our business, and here's the motivation behind our business with all of it. So I do appreciate that a lot.
Well, thank you for saying that. I am very adamant about, especially in today's world with speed and automation and marketing and anybody being able to position whatever they want out in the world without accountability. Like people care even more about the human side of things. And I genuinely believe that with anything that can be a disruptor or can make their lives better or can put more money in their pockets or can help them, like there's often what's the catch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in some ways, what it sounds like is what you're developing is almost too good to be true because all parties win in theory, based on how I'm hearing it and understand it. But even more so the case to be able to understand the purpose, the drive behind the visionary who started it, behind the CTO who originally was contracted to help build it and is now aligned. Like, again, it's the combo of what you both see, the perspectives you both bring, the hearts you both bring, the skill sets and visions that you both bring that are going to make this thing a reality if and how it develops into the world in the way that you envision it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I genuinely believe that more so now than ever, we're starving for authenticity. We're starving for authentic leadership, and we're starving for both disruptive, but in a way that is not divisive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you two represent that. So thank you for the privilege of being able to interview you in the way that we did, and for your courage and willingness to even play some of my impromptu on the fly games to see where this could go. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. And I think that people trust when they can see leaders engaging in the way that you both did.
Well, we appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Brian,
thank you.
I will just say this, that we want to be accessible executives. We don't want to be those guys hiding behind, darkened windows in the limo. So if you see us on the street, come up and say hi. But I will say this, don't think us rude. If you see us in the all you can eat seafood buffet, don't come talk to us. You're only going to slow us down.
You're going to be busy. Yeah.
Because when we hit those crab legs, we're not joking. We're not playing around. It's go time. Okay.
Okay. So look, I can just assume based on that one statement and the little bit I know about you guys, we're going to have to find a time to go crush a buffet together.
Heck yeah.
Because I can put down some food, boys.
All right. Well,
I can put down some
since
food.
we've done a lot of VC conferences, etc., of course, which all end up in Vegas. The Bacchanal buffet there at the Caesar's Palace is definitely worth every cent.
Good,
bro.
Well, I'm going to be in Vegas I think this upcoming weekend. We're going back for the When We Were Young music festival. We're seeing Yellow Card and Blink 182 and that whole deal in Vegas. My wife and I are going up there, so I'm excited about that.
Hit the Bacchanal buffet. You will not regret it.
Yeah, I'll tell you. So again, to the point of I can crush food, I'll tell you one quick sidebar story as we wrap. In college, and it's going to sound really shady, and I promise you, I had hesitations at first, but then after one experience, I was not concerned. I went to school in Southern California, so we were at least close enough to the coast, but there was an all-you-can-eat sushi place that was about 20 minutes from my school. And all-you-can-eat sushi, that sounds iffy, right? I didn't quite know. And sushi is one of my favorite foods. I got kicked out of there 3 times, and they would come up to me and they'd be like, "Oh, white boy can eat sushi. You no more eat sushi. You're not allowed to have more sushi." And I would just I'm like, "But it says all you can eat." But I'm not full. It says, no, you hit your limit. I'm like, no, it says all you can eat. But I would go there and frequently get kicked out.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
I would go, by the way, with one of my Samoan Hawaiian buddies who was twice my size, and we would do some damage.
Oh yeah. Well, the key to any good buffet to beat it is you can't get tricked into the fillers. You can't be doing the mashed potatoes. You can't be
straight fucking substance.
You can't be doing the pasta, etc. You have to be doing the crab. You got to be doing the lobster. You got to do the seafood. You got to do the brisket. Those are the things you got to be focused on.
They've got those little bowls so that you could get the melted butter in. We go to the other end of the buffet and we find the big bowl that's designed for rice dishes and soup bowls. And we've got bowls of butter on ours, guys. I mean, that's how quickly we're cracking this crab leg, dude. I mean,
boys, we're gonna have some fun together at some point. Man, this is great. Anyway, seriously, thank you both for how you showed up today and for all the work you're doing in the world.
We appreciate it. Thank you, man.
And for those of you that just watched Rob and Chad jump in and flip open their lids, I just love when you can see people come together, when the perspectives are actually what allow us to see what's important. I've always said that pain and perspective always point us towards what's important if we're paying attention. And both of their stories that were driven by performance, learning to receive love, validation, and connection through performance, and in many ways trying to find their place and their identity, many of which they're still shifting into, is actually the exact drive and the exact reason that they are so focused on creating equity, transparency, and a fair system so that other families can have the opportunities that they've not only been given themselves, but are trying to create for others. Look, when you can shift from the point of always having to perform just to get a paycheck or to actually get that love, validation, and connection to a place where you're driven by purpose and where impact and legacy become the focus, freedom truly can exist. And it's available for each and every one of us if you're willing to be courageous, honest, and ultimately flip open your lid and scan your can. We'll see you next time.
What you can probably tell by now is that I love telling these stories, but what I love even more is the impact that's coming from them. You see, we're on a mission to impact over 1 billion lives as quickly as possible, but to do that, we need you. See, we believe that moved people move people. And so all I'm asking is if you've resonated, connected with any of the messaging, please consider commenting, sharing, leave a rating and review. Thank you so much for tuning into Flipping the Lid. And if you want more information on the show, how to become a guest, how to recommend a guest, or any of the other details, head over to flippingthelid.com. We'll see you there.